provide survivors with access to information and support systems on different technology platforms in several ways. These platforms, this technology can provide access to support community from support from community of peers, because you know, as human beings, sometimes we are very shy in telling or relating our experiences one-on-one. But technology have come to provide platforms where, because you may not see me, yes, right now, yes, we're doing a video conference. However, if it was not supposed, if I don't want you to see my face, all I'm there to do is switch off my video and I can say to you whatever I want to say. So technology has offered such platform where people can actually express their experiences without the fear of being watched or being seen. So they can convey, they can write it down, share experiences with people who have gone through the same things. They receive counseling, they receive support systems. And also technology platforms is also a platform which we can also use, it's being used, but we can put more emphasis on it in Nigeria to raise awareness about how this violence issues, cases are being perpetrated, and how to avoid sins and different things. We can use it to monitor, and we can use the social media platforms, you know, to do a lot of education, provide a lot of education contents to would-be victims or to victims, and prevent. So everything, technology is here. It is what we're using. It is what we're using right now to talk. So it is not out of place to actually say we need to start using technology rather than the traditional means of the acts and policies that have been designed to actually tackle these issues globally or individual. Like, and also technology is also providing a platform for us to monitor and evaluate interventions of agencies, NGOs, even like women in ICT, all your interventions could be monitored with technology. We want to see the result of improve your interventions and the areas, because once you use technology to track and gather information on how you have dispensed your intervention, you can see other areas, if it's okay, if you write them, if you're able to map out, like using what we call, you gather your information using, you know, you have different devices designed to monitor you around. You can actually, you know, compare, contrast, and know the next thing to do and where you need improvement. And again, Madam Chioma has already told us background, giving us a background to GBV. But for technology to be designed, because technology is such that you have to design it, you have to apply it to something, you need to know why you're designing it. So in the technological world, in order for us to also understand what we are designing or what applications for, we must also understand the root cause, because when you are tracking something, you need to know the root cause. The root cause means what is that? We have to understand several scholarly articles which have told us that one major reason is inequality. Inequality, of course, is being addressed by different acts. We have the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act of 2015, which has only been domesticated in 10 out of the 36 states, including the FCT, that's the Federal Capital Territory. So we need more to be done on that. So in this case, if it's not being domesticated, you know, the way it should be, there is room for improvements in that area. And we have to also know how to use technology to track how all these policies are being deployed. We also have other courses which are age, education, educational level, poverty, unemployment, depression, displacement due to, you know, we have different IDPs all over, that's internally displaced people, persons. We have insecurity, and of course, you know, so many other reasons which are the root causes of these GBVs. So what can we do? How can technology actually address and contribute to closer and support acts and policies which are being deployed by governments and different bodies, United Nations, World Bank, everybody having different policies to address GBV. So how can technology come in? In support of the Women in ICT initiative, and I'm being a technology person, driven person myself, the first thing, in order to address unemployment, poverty, and inequality, the first thing, education or impartition of digital skills. It is not just about, you know, going to school and obtaining certificates anymore. It's about having digital skill sets, because digital skill sets is going to enable or allow a girl child to actually develop. We know our problems, because if you know your problem, you are able to think of solutions. So they can design applications. They need to be in the ICTs. Girl, child, and women, we all need to do more or learn more in the ICT space, so that we can develop and design solutions that will address our problems. We are women, we know our problems, and we should also know things we think that would address those problems. So if we have women trained in digital skills, surely we're going to have more applications, you know, being developed to address our problems, and be able to address unemployment, because a girl child will get gainfully employed. And of course, when you're employed, you eliminate poverty, and then you start bridging the inequality gap. Then, of course, I've said it, once we're able to design, once we're able to have these digital skills, we're going to develop mobile apps, and we have different platforms to confront our challenges. And we can also, you know, as even the men, I can see a lot of men, you know, participating. You help us to also put on a lot of information, a lot of different apps that can be interactive sessions where people can share their experiences online. And, you know, talk, and you advise, receive counseling, receive support to let them know that, I mean, they are not alone the victims are not alone. There are several others, as we have the statistics that are saying about 28 to 30% of women between ages 15 to 49 have experienced one form of violence or the other in Nigeria. So they know that they are not alone. Victims should know that they are not alone, and there is a support system, and this could be done online. Rather, because NGOs like Women in ICT, many of you've done so much counseling. I know that I witnessed the report of a group of this group, of a similar group like yours, when they said they were even to ask to have access to even go and rescue victims during the lockdown. It was because they couldn't have access to pass. It was an Aquilian tax for them. But if it was internet-based applications and their motives, and you're able to actually now detect, you know, your support systems, you're able to locate support systems online. You can actually direct a victim that has actually called you online or notified you of a case online to say, look, even if I'm in Abuja, there's somebody closer to you in Kubwa or somewhere else. Technology will allow us to actually, you know, place all support systems, locate all support systems that are closest to a victim, and we can quickly rescue victims. That's technology for you. And also, of course, we can't do that. Everything we're going to do in order to tackle is we need data. So web-based data gathering. I mean, everybody that reports an incident online, you start collecting the data, because we need such data to be able to provide solutions, design future solutions. So web-based data gathering, it's a technology application we must also focus on developing further in Nigeria, so that we can collect this data, we can use it to plan and provide solutions to victims and prevent other victims from coming up. And then, of course, we have the use of surveillance camera for real-time monitoring of dark spots. That's where it can be web-based. These days, many cameras are web-based, internet, real-time. So in dark spots, we can deploy cameras all over the place. You can start deploying it in public places. And of course, for those who can afford it, there are the GPS bands and tracker to work for your children, and even for women, and for actually for the IDPs. Assuming we're buoyant in Nigeria, we should actually, make sure that every girl child have this GPS, and so that you can locate a child when a child is missing, and you can know where. The area of, their applications you can put on such band to alert you when that incident actually occurred. That's time-based trackers. People can wear it. And of course, I think women in ICT need to also canvas for digitalization of birth registration trafficking. So our birth registration is still being done manually. So we need to design applications and sell it to the health sectors, or to end the National Bureau of Statistics, National Population Commission, to start digitalizing birth certification. We need birth registration. We need to do that. And of course, we have rural, a lot of our residents, over 60%, will reside in the rural areas. How do we reach those people in the rural areas? Your groups like Women in ICT, you're already doing a lot, but I know you're limited. But assuming we do have connectivity in the rural areas, we can deploy technologies to reach them, because communication is key in all these things. And when we also talk of employment, unemployment and employment, you need communication tools, you need internet, you need broadband penetration to be able to address people and meet the needs of the people in the rural areas. How do you do that? Where you don't have the fiber, where you don't have the wireless, you can deploy satellite communications to those areas. At least they must be connected to what is going on. So technology brings everybody together. Technology is a platform where no matter where you reside, you can easily reach and communicate any report incidences of GBV. So we need communications. We need because all the technological applications we're going to deploy or we're going to design, it has to be on a platform, and it only works on a communication platform, in an internet-based communication platform, for which, Nigeria we have abundance of that, because the Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy, the Honorable Minister just secured free right of way for fiber operators to lay their cable, and they are also reduced multiple, for those who are also deploying the fiber and erecting their masts for communication. And also, the government also as the Nigerian communication satellite to actually meet and bridge all this gap. So women in ICT, you can also tell some of your group members, and when you are empowering all these young girls, ICT related jobs is not just about them and skills, selling and buying only, but there are several ICT based skills which can actually empower them and reduce unemployment. So this is where technology comes in, because technology cannot be left behind. And we have in Nigeria more than enough, especially in the Ministry of Education, more than enough platform for which all the different applications that will support us to track GBV exist. Like I've said about what the ministry is doing, there are several intervention programs that the ministry has already embarked upon in training both boys and girls, because we both know that GBV is not peculiar to only girls, but also boys. So in order to actually, because sometimes even boys attacking girls is due to idleness and unemployment, depression. So we have to balance it. As you are also grooming the girls, you also have to make sure that the boys are also being gainfully employed. Because if you don't gainfully employ them, it's going to be it may be counterproductive. They may start feeling the press and then attacking the girls. So you need to develop NATDA, USPF, NCC, that's the ministry roll out different intervention programs to actually develop ICT skills. And they keep doing this. And what we could do is that women ICT can advocate for more slots, directed at their victims, so that many of them can be considered for this digital skill training. And then we can ICT employment. I mean, there's several things you can do with ICT, several jobs, sales, marketing, businesses. I'm sure a lot of all the participants here, they are drivers of different ICT businesses. And everybody can contribute in teaching them and empowering victims in different ICT skills. So, well, the ministry will continue to support women in all stakeholders like women in ICT to formulate policies to support digital enlightenment of the public, and in order to protect the vulnerables. And there is more to I don't know. I know that women in ICT, you have different programs, but I know that there are more that some of the speakers would like to share. So at this point, I just like to round up and to say technology actually is the way forward, because this is our reality. We operate in a digital economy, in a digital world. It is no longer a global world. We call it a digital world. So we cannot let the victims of GBV, we can't allow them to be left behind. We need to integrate them into this global world. And the only way is by actually, bringing them into the ICT world. So women in ICT, you're actually on the right path. And I wish you would engage the other NGOs tackling similar issues, and you need to let them know that technology application is the way forward. Because if we are to track this and address this, the quickest way is digital. Like I mentioned earlier, prohibition of prohibition act is there, but only 10 states is actually domesticating it out of 36 and federal government. You have different policies you have educational policies, but how effective are all those policies? So the most effective way I can say, which is being practiced globally right now, is technology. So the theme of this conference is actually very apt. We need to actually discuss more and deliberate more on how we can actually use technology to address this GBV. So on this note, thank you. I wish the organizers outcome of this conference will also be part of what it will be submitted to the federal government of GBV and also prevent further occurrence. Thank you all for your attention. Good morning once again.
Good morning, and thank you so very much, Dr. Abimbola Alale. Your speech was quite amazing and inspiring. In fact, I picked a few things from what you said, and I really cannot forget talking about digital education, talking about impartation of digital skills. You talked about web-based data gathering, and more importantly, digitalization of birth registrations. Amidst all the things you said, these ones are very dear to my heart, and I picked them, and I'm sure that we're going to with your suggestions. Once again, we say thank you so very much for letting us gain, letting us understand from your wealth of experience. We do not take it for granted. We are very grateful. Next, we are going to be calling on the next speaker for the day. But before I do that, let me please remind all of us, thank you so very much for putting your mics on mute. Please continue to put your mics on mute until you are asked to speak. When you are asked to speak, we will call your name, we will display your profile, we will read your citation, and you will unmute your mic and you will speak to us. for all our participants here. Please take note. If you have any questions, any comments, kindly reach out to us in the chat box. My name is still Ngozi Ijoma Ajama, and it is my pleasure to serve. So may I please call on Mrs. Josephine Kitu. This woman is the director, World Development Fund, Nairobi County, all the way from Kenya. And she would be addressing for the next 15 minutes. Mrs. Josephine would address this gathering. So Mrs. Josephine, please, you are welcome. Participants, join me, welcome Mrs. Josephine Kitu. We are glad to have you, ma. Please unmute your mic and talk to us. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everyone. As you have heard, my name is Josephine Kitu, and I hope I'm loud. My name is Josephine Kitu, a director, World Development Fund, Nairobi County, Kenya. I want to thank you. Largely, I want to thank the women in ICT Nigeria for the invite. And because of time, I would just like to go direct to my presentation. I'm a bit time conscious because I'm a manager, and therefore it's a very interesting topic because I'm a woman, and we are the most victim when it comes to gender violence. The gender violence, what I can define it or based on my knowledge is that it's a violence that is directed against a person because of his or her gender. Gender-based violence assumes many forms, or there are several types of gender-based violences, and the most common being intimate partner violence, sexual assault, and the female genital mutilation. Survivors are mostly women, as I said earlier, women and girls. And according to the World Health Organization, at least 1 in 3 women worldwide will experience either physical or sexual intimate partner violence in their lifetime. Again, my next slide will go to forms of gender. As I said, there are so many. In this case, we'll say that gender-based violence can take various forms. As I said, and I mentioned earlier, that there are varieties of gender-based violence, that is physical, sexual harm, psychological harm, and economical harm. And when I talk about physical, this can result to injuries, distress, health problems. That is, physical forms of violence are beating, struggling, pushing, and the use of objects or weapons. We know very well that this can cause to what we call the word is disappearing, but it will come back. Then we go to the other one, that is sexual. This and of traffic without person's consent. That is also another description we can give to a sexual act without one's consent. There is another one which is psychological. This in question and also blackmailing. This is the violence, which also it's not very healthy. Once experiencing it, it can cause a lot of issues. We have also economical harm. This includes taking advantage of a person at a place of work. Us as women, we experience this a lot at place of our work because of our gender. And some places of work, some positions are strictly reserved for specific gender, which this should not be the case. And we are saying that both men and female are equal, and they can get into any position regardless where you come from or regardless of your gender. We are also saying that we need to be treated equally, whether you are a man or you are a woman, and this will actually open up our minds, and we'll be getting treatment of the same level. What causes gender-based violence? This has been my key point. What really understand all this? Because once you understand what causes gender-based violence, then we are able to go against these things that can cause the gender-based violence. And the one is, a common thing is alcohol and the drug abuse. They are all over, we know, even in Kenya we have them. Gender-based violence can be caused by alcohol and the drug abuse. Many people are pimping in such, and will tend to be physical, thus lash out there. When you are this substance, you are now in a position where you don't really understand yourself proper, and this will cause gender-based violence. There is also issue of property and stress. Most humans will deal with such emotions as stress very badly. One may find only way to escape this is to harm others. It is a mechanism that one will use to escape the stress. The stress, cause of the stress might be in so many ways. And it can be caused by a capacity now for you to control, or for you to manage your stress, or to manage your poverty. You think you can only escape this by harming others. There is also issue of interpersonal conflict. What do I mean by interpersonal conflict? When one does not check himself or herself, they will tend to feel a way that he feels better or she feels better to overcome this. There is also those people or that entitled to a woman, and therefore into consideration when they have grown, when they were growing up. They have been grown up hearing that they will resort to violence anytime a man is challenged, will feel like, no, superior. That is another point. And we also have cultural rights. Cultural rights. Like in Kenya, you know very well where we have around 42 tribes. Every tribe has its own culture that they follow. And most of our cultures, like in Kenya, they dictate that a man who loves his wife, once in a while, he beats up. It's a way of expressing the love. That is one of the culture rights that because my husband feels that my husband loves me and he owns me, he feels he can only express his love by beating me up. There are people's cultures up to date. And that is also a cause of GBV. We have another point that is a fear of lack of consequences. There is especially by people who know that other party will not be believed when they come out to speak. Such a violence, but also a very dangerous violence. When in Kenya, and I also want to believe the same happens in Nigeria because we are in the same umbrella of Africa, dowry payment. We believe that after dowry has been paid, a woman is considered to be a property of a man or a property of a man. Thus, some men will feel the need to dominate over such a woman because of such a activity of dowry. That exercise of dowry privileges men to feel now that a woman 100% is not, but now this issue of property of dowry payment, it is also causing gender violence, because if you are paid for something, you do everything that you wish with your property because it is yours and you own it. Therefore, we are saying this issue of payment of dowry, it is also a cause of gender-based violence. We have issue of peer pressure. Others may feel pressure to be violent based on their friends or family. That they resort to violence in order to feel included or accepted. I think that one goes to our youth. And another final one is societal encouragement of violence. Some people drive to be a center of attention. If that means being violent towards another party, then they will do so. So in the society that we live in, there are also people who feel that they are center of attention, that anything that has to be implemented, it has to pass through them. And if it doesn't now, they encourage society and they become now the fuel. Yeah, they become the fuel in that manner. Okay. Now I will go to ways of dealing with ICT as far as the gender-based violence is concerned. And this will be like kind of recommendations that I will be to affirm a zero tolerance policy on gender-based violence. This will help deter others from such activities. And because of time, number two, I'm saying, and this is like a research I done, at least there are 144 countries countrywide have passed laws on domestic violence. And 154 have set laws on sexual harassment. This is seen as a huge step to help prevent GBV cases. We're also talking about empowerment of both men and women to minimize vulnerability. What do I mean? Making people believe in themselves and their selves actually worthy. It's important so as to know no one has an autonomy over their bodies. I'm also recommending that advocacy, education, and the facilitation for the police and others involved in addressing GBV is needed to make them more effective in detection and the management of GBVC cases. We are also saying failure to report GBVC cases and the lack of cooperation by witnesses should be locked into stakeholders' role out of program to help. We need to involve the stakeholders. We need to involve stakeholders as a way and also incapacitate them with skills on ICT so that the reporting matters becomes easier. And again, we also need a continuously monitor, that is like a mechanism of monitoring the GBVC trend in the country. It's not only women that are affected, but men suffer more too. I mean, men, they also suffer. But I think the suffering of men, it's a bit silent because of the culture and also because of the culture. And we are also saying the rate of sexual violence and the early marriages increases during the crisis. Yet too many are times that girls and the women in such cases lack access to life-saving information and the services that could protect them against early pregnancies, sexual transmitted infections, or even physical harm and violence. So we are recommending that, or I'm recommending that every state should come up with a way or a method or a mechanism based on the ICT, like the first speaker talked about surveillance, how the information can reach the relevant authorities very effectively in order to help the victims. Another point is that even when such services are available, there is fear of stigmatization. Stigmatization now here becomes an obstacle that to prevent many girls and women from accessing their care. Yeah, it is kind of treated like a shame reporting things, activities like rape in some communities, like in Kenya. You find that somebody was raped, and because of that fear of victimization or stigmatization, the cases are not reported accordingly. And they even sought to settle the issues of rape within the community or within the family of the victim and the person who did the act. Therefore, we are saying this issue of stigmatization becomes an obstacle, becomes so hard for the victim to report the matter to the authority or to the relevant authority to allow the action and to allow application of the law in that case. Therefore, there is a need of rapid use of internet and the online spaces has also led to abuse, harassment, and violence against children. I mean, internet presence for children must not be underestimated. What needs to happen to help prevent gender violence? This is another question that comes very powerful in our mind, that as a state or as a country, and I want to thank, up to this point, I want to thank the Women in ICT Foundation, that they have seen it pertinent to come up with such a discussion. It is through this discussion that I accepted the organization to advise the agencies of the government as far as the GBVC is concerned. And we are now looking at what can be done actually to prevent, or what is needed, what is important to be done to prevent gender-based violence. In my point, I'm saying that the state must recognize violence against women and children as an important human rights issue and find a long-lasting solution. Again, The legal protection for women and rights who are victims or at risk on violence must be strengthened, and harmful gender norms that condone the use of violence on women. Expect that has to be done based on the mechanisms that are in place as at now, so that they can be improved and made better in order to stop this gender-based violence. And indeed, it should stop immediately after this presentation or this conference. We are also saying that the state must increase their financial and political commitments on gender-based violence. I know this one, when we get here, the experts tend to pretend that they don't see the essence in this, but I am recommending that there must the state must take its full responsibility and improve on this. And we need to improve much on ICT as far as gender-based violence is concerned. State and the community leaders should take measures to address attitudes and the behaviors that the legitimate violence at national, local, school, and the community levels to help prevent, respond to gender-based violence on time. You find that a rape was done, a rape case happened last month. The provision of the information to the relevant authority so of laws are done. This is a very strong point to me. And it will be very
Hello, Ma. Kindly unmute your mic so we can hear you. Your mic is on mute. Please unmute so we can hear you. All right, thank you so very much, Mrs. Josephine Kitu, for that empowering speech coming all the way from an experienced woman in ICT from Ghana. From Kenya, sorry about that, from Kenya. Some few takeaways from your recommendations. You talked about zero tolerance policy on gender-based violence. You talked about empowerment to minimize vulnerability of women and girls, including boys. You talked about advocacy and education for the police to empower them more to be able to tackle issues of gender-based violence. And then finally, you talked about giving responsibility to community leaders to be able to take charge around their communities. We are so very grateful, Ma. We enjoyed, and we're going to take note of your recommendations to make sure that we follow it up with our policymakers. Make sure these things are written down in black and white, and also to monitor and ensure that this zero tolerance you talked about, the zero tolerance policy, is being observed for offenders and those who would still go ahead to mete out violence on women and girls because of their gender. Let me also say thank you so very much to all our participants, all the speakers in the house. We appreciate you. We thank you for maintaining, for keeping to our housekeeping rules, keeping your mics on mute and asking your questions, sending your questions to the chat room. And also to our speakers, thank you for giving us from your wealth of experience. This is a program organized by the Women in ICT Foundation. And today we are talking about gender-based violence. How do we end gender-based violence? What is gender-based violence? This is the International Virtual Conference on Gender-Based Violence, and it's organized by Women in ICT Foundation. Welcome on board, everyone, and thank you for staying with us. Please stay tuned. Also, event. The next speaker is going to be Mr. Mohammed Jega. Mr. Mohammed Jega, I will just introduce you briefly. Your profile would be on display, and then you would unmute your mic and you would speak to us. Mr. Mohammed Ibrahim Jega is a Nigerian entrepreneur. He is also a technology startup founder. He is better known as Chief Business Development Officer, VoguePay. This man was born and raised in Kaduna State. He founded the Technology and Innovation Hub startup in the year 2016. He was named as one of the members of Nigeria's Presidential Advisory Group in 2018. He was also part of the Vice President of Nigeria, talking about Yemi Oshibanjo's delegation to Silicon Valley, United States, in the year 2018. His investment interest ranges from financial technology or blockchain technology to cybersecurity. He also joined the blockchain startup KickCity as an advisor on business development and growth in Africa. Now, all these things have to do with digital technology. This is a man who has traveled wide and gained a lot of experience, a lot of support, a lot of network to be able to advise. And he is also a he for she. Let me mention that this is a man who is interested in issues concerning women and girls. Ladies and gentlemen, every participant, Mohammed Ibrahim Jega. Thank you, sir. We're grateful for having you.
All right, thank you very much, Ngozi. So I really appreciate the introduction. That's very excited. You're absolutely right. I'm a very, very passionate advocate of women in technology, and also a supporter of gender-based, against gender-based violence. I'm so excited, so much honor. It's given me so much honor to be here with you at this year's International Virtual Conference. The Foundation, I think I want to thank the executive committee members and the entire members of the planning committee for this event, which is an experience in that space, and I for all children, adolescents, including most vulnerable and excluded. How can technologies?
A passionate he for she.
Yeah,
Very.
very passionate.
Thank you so very much, sir. And so,
Pleasure.
of all the amazing things you have said, one thing just struck me the most. You said,
Yeah.
girl must not be held responsible for violence that happened to them. Because oftentimes people will say it's because you did this, it's because I'm a victim for violence that is meted out to her or to him, depending on the gender. And I think it's very wrong, and I agree with you that women and girls are held responsible for violence that happened to them.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much, sir.
Yeah, I just saw in the chat box some people are asking the name of the apps. It's very important. I will share them. I will share the names of the app. So to interest you, next time maybe when Domain Tech are going to host this convener for the Technovation in Nigeria, so that she can come and share some of the landscape of what they've been doing in supporting the girl child and women.
Thank you so very much, sir. We'll be looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Okay. So next, join us. We'll be having the next speaker now. Because of time, we'll be a bit fast. So now, Mrs. Nadia Mohammed. Your profile will be on display because if you are here in the room, ma'am, if you are here in the room, kindly unmute your mic and speak to us. I know you are the head special humanitarian affairs, and I also know that there are a lot of titles and a lot of accolades that you have acquired within the years that you have worked. So please, ma, with all due respect, with all due humility, we would like to call you to talk to us.
The next day she went back home. He beat the hell out of her. That why would she spend the night in my house after she has already informed him and requested for permission to do that? So when she informed me, I was very, very, very angry. And after beating her, injured her, sending her back home to her parents, he then was bragging that if she does that again, he will beat her 101 times. So when I was called and being informed, this is what happened to my cousin due to the visit, I immediately called the office of the First Lady of Nasarawa State, because she has an NGO that they are doing more of advocacy and trying to see that they bring all the perpetrators to justice. So when I called the office and I informed them this is what is happening, and when my cousin's husband learned that some measures are going to take, he now decided to send some elderly people to come and apologize for his actions. So that is not just the end of it. And for the first time, she was telling us that this has not been the first time that her husband beat her. Maybe sometimes she's cooking and she didn't finish on time, he came back, he will beat her. So he's the beating type. So these are kind of issues that the northern parts of Nigeria is really suffering in. And these people, these women are stigmatized. A lot of them cannot come out and talk because they are afraid that their marriage will end. So we need to really take this very seriously and change the approach we have on gender-based violence. If these perpetrators are being given penalty, the right penalty, then I think we are going to have a minimal rate of gender-based violence. And another thing that we are going to do to end this pandemic is for all of us to take actions, both the government, both the civilians, everybody needs to take action. And what are these actions that we need to take? Mrs. Josephine from Kenya spoke about community leaders taking responsibilities. And that has been one of the problems we are having in the northern Nigeria. You have a case of rape or a case of gender-based violence, they'll tell this is a civil matter, this is a house matter, let them solve it within the families, and the families of the victim will say, we are forgiving you, and something like that. And this victim is left to live with that, which affects their mental ability. And so the community leaders really need to take responsibility. If they find in their community anybody wanting of gender-based violence, they need to take him to appropriate authority so that he will face the wrath of the law on what happened. I believe you people are aware of the story of a 3-month-old baby being raped by an adult in Nasarawa State. And I want to proudly tell you that the state government, most especially the office of the First Lady, did not take it lightly, because the victim was caught and he is facing the wrath of the law as we are speaking now. So there are a lot of things we need to do for women so that they can speak up against this gender violence they are facing, because that is the most important thing. They cannot speak up. In northern Nigeria, they can't speak up, and it's happening every day, every minute it's happening. And these women cannot speak up. And some of these women that are affected are mostly, you see, from the rural areas. You see a girl of 15 years, she's married, and in fact, some of the stories cannot be told, but because they are scared, if they speak up, maybe their family members or the husband family will deal with them. So they prefer to live in that condition instead of speaking out. So part of the recommendations I'll make is the Women in ICT Foundation should also encourage women developers to come up with an app that we can report this gender-based violence. As Dr. Alale mentioned during her presentation, she said we should have a digitalized birth register. And aside from having a digitalized birth register, we can take advantage of the technologies we have right now to see that we have an app that can report, so that we can have demographic data of gender-based violence. Because when we have that data, that is what is going to assist us to take actions on the perpetrators of this act. And another thing we should also do is to educate the girl child, because without the right education, of recent I was reading on the social media that a teacher abused 5 of his students, and those students are disabled. Some are blind, they are disabled. Let me just use the word, they are disabled. And this man, out of wickedness, raped these children and asked them not to report, that if they report, he will kill them. And God so kind, one of them stood up and reported, and this man is eventually going to face the wrath of the law. So we should educate our girl child. We should educate them. Though there are people in the rural area that you cannot educate any longer, but we need to take that advocacy today. We need to make them to be aware that they have a platform that they can report any gender-based violence that is affecting them. And also our families our families need to also take responsibility, because most of these problems in the northern part of Nigeria comes from the family, because they try to cover up, because they don't want to, like, this problem is coming from our family. So they need to cover up what is happening and just tell the victim they are just, it is destiny, that God has destined this will happen to you. No, there are things that are not destiny. We caused it on ourselves. So you can't just allow a female child to suffer, just like Jagan mentioned, that they are not meant to take responsibility for gender-based violence. So we need to change our approach if we really want to prevent and eliminate gender-based violence. We need to change our approach. We need to empower the women, because a lot of the women that keep quiet, because as a result of they are dependent on others, and because they are dependent, they don't have source of income, they are not empowered. They feel if they report, that will be the end of their sustenance, and so they prefer to keep quiet and bear the consequences. So it's high time we empower our women with skills, with trade, with anything that will make her independent, that she can stand for ourselves, so that they can be able to speak for themselves. And another thing we need to do is educate the men and boys, because most of these gender-based violence comes from them. Our men need to understand that women also are part of the society. They have roles to play to elevate the society. They are not just meant to be slaves at home for men. No, they are also people that need to be empowered. For example, a woman, part of the responsibility of a woman, she takes care of the home, she takes care of the family, and the family is the smallest unit of the society. So if you keep suffering these women or girls, I wonder what kind of society we are going to have. And also we need to also ensure that our judicial and legal frameworks are really working well. Just like the Dr. Alale mentioned, that 10 states domesticated the Gender-Based Violence Act. And I want to tell you that Nasarawa State is part of that. So we need to really upgrade our legal and judicial frameworks, that if these perpetrators are caught, they should face the wrath of the law. So I wonder where you get somebody that raped a child, the family of that victim will now say they have forgiven him. Let the law not allow the family to forgive the perpetrators of this act. Let the law, the government should, the law take it on itself that anybody that commits this offense, this is, even if the family says they forgive, they should not accept the family's forgiveness, because they are dealing with somebody's life. So we need to speak up for our mothers, we need to speak up for our wives, speak up for our sisters, for our daughters, for our partners. It is not enough just doing the talking. We need to act, and that is how we will be able to eliminate and end gender-based violence. And we need women to also, as the victims need to get, we need to have a platform that the victims can get health intervention, health support, so that they can be able to handle the situations they are faced with. So on this note, I would like to say a big thank you to Women in ICT Foundation for finding me worthy of participation in this international conference. And together, we are going to end gender-based violence in the world. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Ma, for that brief, yet quite informative and educative speech from you. Now, for the purpose of all our listeners and our participants, our speaker is now the SSA to the governor of Nasarawa State on Geographic Information Service, NEGIS. She was formerly the SSA to the governor of Nasarawa State on ICT. Now she's SSA to the governor on Nasarawa Geographic Studies. Thank you so very much, Ma. We are very grateful to have you. We have been inspired by your words. We have been inspired by your, especially the life experience that you shared. Yes, very key, very important. And we say thank you for that life experience, bringing it, the reality to our tables. Next, we are going to be having, the next speaker would be Mrs. Habibat Eluame. Mrs. Eluame. On this shortly, Mrs. Habibat Eluame, assistant to the chairman and CEO of NIDCOM. Mrs. Habibat, if you are in the house, kindly unmute your mic and talk to us. And so, participants in the room, our distinguished guests and keynote speakers, ladies and gentlemen, join me. Welcome Mrs. Habibat Eluame to this great occasion. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Good afternoon to all the participants and speakers. And Eluame. Eluame. Yes. Okay. I'm here to represent Honorable Abike Dabiri-Erewa, who has a tight schedule and couldn't make it to this program. So I am here to represent her. We have heard a lot from all the speakers, and I'm pleased with all we've learned today. And I will not want to bore you with so much because we can't be saying the same thing again and again, but I will just go straight to the point. So I'll begin by addressing the ICT women for this program. It is my pleasure and honor to address you all on this occasion of the International Virtual Conference on Gender-Based Violence with the theme, Tackling Gender-Based Violence with Technology. I'd like to appreciate the organizers, Women in ICT, for this great initiative, which is very apt, as stressed by all the speakers. So we've all said so many things about this gender-based violence, and I quite agree with all the speakers. But I have some suggestions that I would like to stress. Like we need, for example, we have people at the community who don't have access to this internet. The DG of NIDCOMSAT mentioned the use of satellite, which I think is also very important. So I'd like to recommend that we have special victim units in police stations, because we have police stations every corners of this country. So with this victim unit, they can tackle such delicate cases via the use of hot toll-free lines. The Nigerian police force will assist us in doing this. This unit should collaborate with telecommunication companies so that victims can access urgent help even without internet, even without credits on their phones. And I'd like to also suggest the use of first team responders, especially at the local communities. so that just as a call, they will rush to the scene of the act. And I would like to say orientation and awareness by government agencies responsible for gender-based violence, trafficking. And this should be sent to the general public periodically. NGOs are doing a lot. I know the ICT Women Foundation have spent lots of money to put this together, and they've been doing so many to ensure that this gender-based violence is minimized or eradicated. We know government cannot do it all alone. We need the assistance of other people. If you listen to some of the speakers, you've heard the causes of this gender-based violence. We have the laws, but they need to be implemented. A lot have been said. We have talked and talked and talked. And according to Ms. Mariam Gajere, we need to walk that talk. We need to move. We need to do something. We need to be seen to be doing something so that they will know that we are serious with this issue. We have cultural issues. We have educational issues. We have economical issues. But I want to advise parents. I'm a parent. I want to advise. We train our girls so well and train them to be good wives. I like the men to be trained to be good husbands. We can right this wrong from our children. This problem is on now, but how do we right it? Our cultural background can be revisited. You train the man to respect the woman. You don't beat what you love. When you love something, you show love. If you look at the animal kingdom, when a male wants a female, you see how he takes care of her, how he walks around her, how he tries to attract her. So we need to see how we can do that, and let us disabuse our minds against violence in achieving. We know they said, the first speaker said there are also issues of drugs abuse. There are issues of alcohol, like the Mrs. Kitu from Kenya. Yes, those ones are there. But from growing up within the peer groups, we should know the disadvantages of this gender violence. It happens to men, it happens to women. Because I don't want to bore you, go into all the histories. We've heard all that. But I would like all hands to be on deck. NGOs, federal government agencies, parents, communities, traditional rulers, they should come together, sit down. If you have a wife or a girlfriend, she's not your servant. She's your wife or she's your person. All the sexual assaults women are going through, if the men understand, consent is important. If you get the consent, you get the enjoyment. So I don't know what you get in assaulting a woman through violence. So we need education, we need awareness. We need to go all out. We saw the awareness program of COVID-19 pandemic. We can take a clue from that and take this gender-based violence issue all to the nook and crannies of the country. We have cultural differences, but the bottom line is love. Let us love one another. Let us feel for the other. So I thank you so much for this, and I thank all the distinguished speakers who have spoken on this issue. And I pray that we will sit down and think of the way forward. How do we move? Action, action. That is what I want. We have talked, we have laws, we have Child's Rights Act, we have Violence Against Persons Act, but let us come together. We can involve the legal people so that we can have the awareness to ensure that these laws are implemented. Thank you so very much for inviting my chairman, and I thank you for all the lessons I have learned too from the other speakers. And I want to say thank you, and I wish you all the best. Our doors are open. Anytime you want us to be part of your awareness campaign program, please feel free to invite us. So Women in ICT Foundation, I greet you all, and I thumb up for you for what you're doing. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much, ma'am. You are so on point. Mrs. Habiba. We are so very grateful for having you this afternoon. We are the Women in ICT Foundation, and this program is the International Virtual Conference on Gender-Based Violence. The theme for this program is End the Silence, hashtag tracking gender-based violence with technology. Okay, and so next, because of time, I'm trying to round up. We will be having the next speaker, Mrs. Nadia Soso Muhammad. Ma, are you in the house? If you're in the house, please let's have you shortly. Mrs. Nadia Muhammad is the head, Special Duties, Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. Ladies and gentlemen, join me, welcome Mrs. Nadia Mohammed. If you are in the house, ma'am, kindly unmute your mic and let's have you on board. Thank you. Okay, it appears the next speaker is not in the house. Of Mrs. Nadia Mohammed, let me also ask Mrs. Josephine Kitu. The last time, because of network challenges, you could not finish your speech. Would you like to complete your speech now, ma? Or would you like to send it to us so we can share to our participants via mail?
Yes, I would like to finish because it's a small portion.
Would like to finish it? Okay,
yes,
ma.
yes. Yes.
You have the floor, ma.
Okay, I want to apologize because my internet was a bit unstable. Will not take a lot of your minutes. I'll just go to African Commission on Human Rights and the People's Rights resolution on the right to a remedy and a reparation for women and the girls victim on social violence, that is 007, which urges the estate parties to ensure that police and the military police receive adequate training on the principles of international humanitarian law on women's rights and the children's rights as per the Article 2 of the same law. I will go straight to the conclusion because it is important that I conclude. And I'm concluding by saying that preventing violence and abuse on gender basis as early as possible is what we should mainly focus on. We should not wait until the act or the incident occurs, then we now start giving out our views. This is what we could have done. We should just straight go to the action of putting down the measures to prevent the occurrence of the violence. Again, we are saying that both government and non-governmental organizations like FIDA, that is FIDA means International Federation of Women Lawyers, should come together in large and offer legal support to women and the girls who are victims on gender-based violence. Again, I'm recommending that we should strive to eliminate harmful tradition practices like FGM, early forced marriages, and other forms of gender-based violence in this case. This can only be possible if we unite as one and offer, we offer legal support to women and the girls who are victims of this gender-based violence. This animal called gender-based violence, we must work as one in order for us to achieve in stopping it. And we are also saying that media platforms should be in the front line educating and raising awareness to the masses worldwide on the important respecting women and doing away with gender-based violence. I believe after this conference, I expect every participant to become an ambassador to gender-based violence and ensure that all the points that are being given out by the speakers of today that will be implemented accordingly. And lastly, we need to reach out to both men and the boys and make it clear to them that being a real man means saying no to gender-based violence, not encouraging it, but they also become an ambassador on stopping the gender-based violence, discrimination, and the respecting rights of girls and the women. Actually, we are saying that we shouldn't be given, criticized that we are properties. No, we are not properties. The issue of property, we know what belongs, we know a proper definition of a property. A property, I won't believe a property is something that is cannot move on its own. But women and the girls can move on their own. What men can do, we are also able to do. If it's going to school, we have papers like men. And therefore, the issue of being called property, just because somebody has paid dowry on me, it is a no. And I want to thank the Women in ICT Foundation. I want really to benchmark with you. We don't have such an organization in Kenya, and if it is there, it must be silenced. Maybe it has been silenced by the authority, I can't tell. But this is a very, very, very important, conversation that we are being able to share what happens in Kenya, what happens in Africa entirely, and also, let's call a spade, and not a small spoon in this case. That if a wrongdoer has done it, let it get what he deserves as per his actions. And the issue of preventing the perpetrators of this GBV, it should end, regardless, no matter how much you have, but you have committed this, you should face the law. And these laws, they should be in place and fully enforced to ensure that we don't encounter the GBV anymore. For me, I'm so glad. I am so glad, and I feel so much privileged to get this time to share my view on GBV. And I promise the Women Foundation that I will wish to work closely to you so that I can also expand or share with my country what happens in Nigeria. The measures that Nigerians have put to end the GBV, it's what I would wish Kenya to do. And therefore, I'm so glad. What I can say is that God should bless Women in ICT Foundation in Nigeria. You are so much welcome to come and ambassador to Kenyans also. And the sharing of experience is the thing to go. So thank you so much. I'm happy to that point. Thank you, and God bless you.
Wow. That was powerful again. The concluding aspects from Mrs. Josephine Kitu, who is the Director, World Development Fund in Nairobi County of Kenya. Thank you so very much, Ma, for hanging on and concluding this powerful speech that you started earlier on. We are very grateful. We do not take it for granted. To all our participants, to all our speakers, thank you so much for staying around. Thank you so much for still being there on this program, not leaving us behind and giving us all you've got. Next, we are going to be taking questions and answers. If you have sent in your question, please make sure that you are around because our speakers are going to be taking the answers. They're going to be giving you answers to your questions now. So if you have any question, please kindly drop it in the chat box. And our speakers are going to respond to your questions. Okay, now we are taking questions and answers. Let me quickly read out a few questions from the chat room. This question is from Tina Isaac. Tina says, my question goes to the presenter that listed the apps that can be used to report cases of gender-based violence. Sir, we understand that gender-based violence cuts across different social status, both the rich and the poor. She said, what are the alternative media with which cases of GBV can be reported in the rural areas where there is absence of technology that enables a victim to use some of the apps you mentioned? Mr. Mohammed Jega, that question goes to you, sir. Could you please unmute your mic and answer the question, sir? Hello, sir. This question goes to Mr. Mohammed Jega. Could you please take the question? Hello? Hello, sir. Are you still there? Okay, I remember that during his presentation, he said he was going to share the apps on the chat room. So please, Tina Isaac, kindly check the chat room to see if our speaker has answered your question already. Kindly check the chat room. Thank you. let me sort out the next question. Okay, thank you so very much. Now we have another question. One from Udwak Obots. She said, my question goes to, he said, Mariam, you made mention of GBV in the North especially. Do you think it can ever end? He said most of the issues are related to religion and culture. What actions can be put in place to end this? Miss Mariam Gajere, this question goes to you. Could you please attend to this question?
Hello. Thank
Yes,
you,
please.
Ms. Udwak, for this question. Like I said, the North suffers from GBV a lot, and the issue of religion and culture is a great factor. In terms of religion, I'm a Muslim, and there's nowhere in my religion, in the Quran, that says a woman should be a slave to a man. There's nowhere. The Quran has 6,666 verses. There's no way that is being stated. But because before the Islamic religion came in, they already have an existing culture, an existing tradition that they have been following. They now marry that tradition and the religion together and makes a woman to feel she is slave. But if it is the religion aspect of it, a woman has 100% right over her husband in Islam. So the most major problem we are facing is the cultural issue. And I want to tell you that if we start taking action, it will end. By reporting, we need to create this platform so that these women and girls will feel safe to report violence against them. But once we don't have that platform, and if they see and we don't enforce these laws, if they don't see people being punished for that, nobody will come out and speak. But if today and the perpetrators of this act are facing the wrath of the law, today, tomorrow, somebody will always come out and say his own part of the story. And before you know, we will get there to ending such issues in the North. But right now, we really need to take action. Let them see it being implemented. Let them enforce the law that punishes these wrongdoers. Once that law is being enforced, a lot of women and girls will speak out. In fact, some is by their brothers. Some, in fact, the issues, some cannot be told because of they are very, very, very critical, and the human brain cannot even take what is really happening. I have a lot of life and physical stories that I can share based on GBV in the northern part of the country. I've seen some myself physically happening. In fact, my neighbor, I was in the house, the daughter of the neighbor came in. My mother is calling you, come and help. My daddy is going to kill my mom. I said, what do you mean? And these two people are educated. They are educated, they are civil servants. So you can imagine, sometimes it's not all about being education. We need to train our men and boys to know that women are not slaves. So in the northern part, we have to start taking actions. And by that, I know it will take us time, but we will get there to end gender-based violence.
Thank you so very much, ma'am. Now let's quickly take the next question. This next question goes to Dr. Doctor. This person says, what is the consequence of not domesticating on states and governments? Dr. Alele, what is the consequence of not domesticating the Gender-Based Violence Act on the government? If you are still in the room, doctor, and attend to the question. Thank you. All right. With the information reaching me just said she has another engagement. Let's quickly take another question from David. Security has been a major challenge in Nigeria, especially in the northeast of the country. How do we tackle in order to get rural areas? This question will be directed. Okay, any of the speakers can answer. Any of the speakers? Okay, while we are waiting for the speaker to answer the question, let me quickly read out the next question so we can proceed.
Hello?
Yes, please. This question goes to Madam Kitu. He said, what measures are we supposed to take in exposing those who hide the rape cases that happen to their girls? Mrs. Josephine Kitu, this question is being directed to you. It says, what measures are we supposed to take in exposing those who hide the rape cases that happen to their girls? If you can hear me, ma'am, kindly unmute your mic and educate us. Thank you. Hello, ma'am, are you still there? Hello, ma'am, are you still there? Mrs. Josephine Kitu, are you still there? To have this question that is being directed to you. Okay, it appears her network has some issues. It appears her network has some issues. Let me take the next. The next question says, the women okay. Gadget, so we can hear you well.
Yes. Can you get the question, please?
Okay, let me take the question again. Give me,
Can you repeat the question, please?
give me a sec, ma. Give me a second.
Can I get the question, please?
Hide the rape cases that happen to their girls. What measures
Yes.
who hide that happen to their girls?
Can I get Okay. What should happen to those who hide the cases of rape is that, like in Kenya, we have set a way or a mechanism that has been based at the local chiefs, whereby if someone hides the act, there is also a clause of the law that also remands this person to be charged also. Okay. What should happen
The network is very challenging. We cannot hear you from here. Could you please give us the response in the chat room?
Okay, I will.
Thank you so much, ma. Thank you so much, ma. So let's take the next question. The next question says that the rural people staying in the rural area are the people to report these cases. How can we get in the rural areas to get them to report cases of gender-based violence? Mrs. Habibat, could you please do justice to this question? Thank you.
There was a question for me on how the GBV programming can be measured. Is it that one? Hello? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello? Oh my God. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. There was a question there for me on how the programming of GBV can be measured. And I say, one, by data gathering through the government agencies responsible.
Yeah. Hello, ma'am. It appears the network is no longer friendly. I can barely hear you. If you can hear me, oh, Your mic is on mute. Kindly unmute your mic, ma. Kindly unmute your mic so we can hear you. Oh, it appears we lost her. Please, if you can hear me, ma, kindly drop your response in the chat room. Thank you, ma. Kindly drop your response in the chat room. Thank you, ma. Okay, so let's take the next question. This question, okay, we've taken this. We've taken this. Okay, this one said the police and the law courts, they have a big role to play in the enforcement of the GBV Acts, and in most cases, they have failed when the rich and mighty are involved. How do we tackle this? How do we tackle this? It appears the network is not friendly to our speakers. The network is not friendly to our speakers. So please check, if you have sent in your question, kindly check in the chat room. The answers, our speakers would drop the answers to your questions in the chat room. Thank you. Next, we're going to be taking the vote of thanks. We're going to be taking the vote of thanks. The vote of thanks would be taken by Ms. Sylvia in the house. Ms. Sylvia, kindly unmute your mic and let us have the vote of thanks. Thank you. The vote of thanks, please.
Hello. Can I? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Ngozi. On behalf of women in ICT, I want to thank and appreciate all our guest speakers for their time and powerful speech. Thank you for the light. We thank you very much for being able to make it to this conference. Special thanks goes to Mr. Mohammed Zaga, founder of Startup Arewa. Thank you very much, sir, for coming. Ms. Bimbola Alane, MD CEO, representing the Honorable Minister of Communications and Digital Economy. Thank you for making it. Thank you so much. We appreciate your presence. We have Habibat, part 11, sorry, please. Representing Chairman, CEO Nigeria Communication, Ms. Abike Zaberi. Thank you for coming, Ms. And we have Ms. Nadia Soto. Thank you very much, Ma, for coming, and Ms. Josephine Ketu from Kenya. We appreciate you for coming. Thank you. Oh, sorry, I almost forgot you. sorry, Jerry SSA on ICT to the Executive Governor of Nassau State. Thank you for making it my day. Thank you. And we want to say a big thank you to all our participants. Thank you for sparing your time and participating fully for this conference. Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
so much, Sylvia, for that detailed vote of thanks to all our speakers, guest speakers, keynote speakers, as well as the participants. So we would like to mention that we are the Women in Agriculture Foundation, and we would like to partner with every organization that is represented on this international conference for gender-based violence. So all our guest speakers and keynote speakers, we would like you to know that we are ready. Want to say that if you have your programs and your events, just like we have invited you, please feel free to also bring us in, and we would do our best to play our role that you would give us to play to see that this partnership goes smoothly either way. You know, partnership is a two-way thing. As we are Thank you. Closing prayer. So next we will be having the national anthem. We'll be closing with the national anthem. Someone please have the national anthem. Thank you. The national anthem, please. Thank you so very much. That was the national anthem, Nigeria's national anthem. And that brings us to the close of this international virtual conference on gender-based violence. We are very grateful. We sincerely say thank you very much to all the house and fans for rallying around us to ensure that this program is a success. We do not take it for granted. We love you all, and we say our doors are open for partnerships in the future. Take good care of yourself. Enjoy the weekend. Bye. From here. For now. Thank you.
How much?
It's 16 hours.
My
So we can leave. Make fun. Yeah, I could leave the meeting. Kwani hii haita leave the meeting? Au ndio?